All right, hello everybody. I am going to record a quick video here to show you how to pitch a service. So check this out. So if you're watching this, you know of Visualize Value, the social profile, and I'm going to show you how I pitch Visualize Value as a service for businesses. So start with this hook. Translating your intellectual power into intellectual property. So the Visualize Value process, as it applies to a unique business, is an asset that delivers these 6 things. And again, another powerful way to open a presentation is to hook the listener with what you're going to explain as a result of your product. So the asset in question is going to make you more attractive to high caliber investors, enable you to sell your product at a higher margin, get everybody on the same page about what's going on, scale your business systematically so you have a sales process that you can replicate, larger deals just by increasing the perceived value of your service, and the ability to standardize your process from the inside out also. So we open with this statement: if people could see what you see, know what you know, feel the passion you feel, and believe what you believe, would it be easier to do business with them? And the objective of this part of the presentation is to get the people in the room, get their heads nodding. And more often than not, people's heads nod to this question. So the problem exists in service businesses. The most valuable asset that a service business has is their ability to deliver a result. And that comes with a certain degree of vulnerability. The problem here is your ability to deliver a result depends on someone believing that you can deliver said result. So the solution is in eliminating any possible misinterpretation from that process. So that's what Visualize Value does as a process. So everybody has this intellectual power in successful service businesses to achieve a result. They go through a number of processes in their heads, expertise that they've amassed over a period of time to deliver a result of some kind. The problem when they're pitching that result is that more often than not, they only have verbal tools to describe their value. So they might speak too much, they might speak too little, they might speak to a portion of the process that isn't necessarily relevant to the prospect or the prospect doesn't care about, and the result gets lost in translation. So we lose that relationship between your intellectual power, your ability to deliver a result, and the actual result. When you're able to describe your intellectual power in a way that everybody understands it, so you use visuals, the result becomes clear to everybody. So your opportunity as a business owner watching this presentation would be to take that intangible concept in your head, that really elongated, nuanced process, and turn it into visible value. So what is value? It can be described in a number of different ways. First being this functional value. So it describes the qualities of the service itself. So this is the ability for visuals to better explain what it is that the prospect gets as a result of working with you. Monetary value is an obvious one. It's the amount of money someone is willing to pay for that service. And if you're able to articulate it in a way that is very compelling, that perceived value ratchets up. Social connection. So if you're in a room with someone or even presenting over video conference with a piece of material that everybody is kind of following along with and everybody's able to consume at the same level of understanding, you have a much better chance of bonding with those people and having them see your point of view. Psychological is, as a service provider, as somebody who's pitching something, having an asset that you feel super confident in speaking to is increasing the psychological value on the client side, my client side, that would be. So use a couple visual metaphors here. The idea of turning raw materials into valuable assets. So you have this huge asset bank. So you have this ability to produce a result, but you're kind of inside the process. It's very difficult for us to determine our own value because we can't look at ourselves objectively. So what this service does is takes a wide look at the raw materials and pulls out the diamonds. So these are the things that perfectly articulate your value, and these are the things that we can, this is how we can present your value in a way that makes it most attractive to the market, and you could sell it for the highest price, and everybody understands the value of it. That's what this process does for service businesses. So we do that in 3 stages: extract, subtract, and attract. And really, at a high level, what the extract process is just having empathy for the market. So we know that you're capable of all of these things. We ask you about what it is you talk about being capable of. So the way you currently sell the process, the way you currently sell your product versus everything that's involved. So let's get everything out on the table, and we'll discover some of the things that you talk about that you may not have revealed to your prospects in the past. So there's this overlap between what you value as a service provider and what your market is going to value as somebody who's facing the problem that they're facing. So we take a broad look at that. That's a series of document reviews, interviews, talking to people on the team, looking at projects you've completed, just really understanding your business. And that's the process of extraction. So take a ton of notes, interview a couple people, perhaps the principal and people in different departments, but just get a really good understanding of what the business does and how it works. Then we distill that into what sells. So there's going to be overlap between what you value and what your market values. We want to condense that into the most compelling pitch we possibly can. And that's the process of subtraction, which visually becomes something like this. We're able to take that entire methodology, all those things that you're brilliant at, a lot of the things that you would never even think to mention when you're pitching your customers, but actually are a huge differentiator in the market compared to what any of your competition is talking about. So we distill that process and we turn it into this structured, linear explanation of what you do. So you walk in your client through your methodology as so they can put themselves into that timeline and understand how working with you would play out and how the result that you promise you're going to create actually comes about. So then you have this methodology as this output of this exercise, which we can use to articulate your service and eliminate any misunderstanding. Becomes something like this. So we have a graphic device. We have, more often than not, a sequence of chapters or pillars that make up this process. And then that becomes central to everything you do to communicate what you do as a business. So that's, how you build out your website, how you build out your sales deck, how you would build out client documentation, how you would build social content. So a good example of this is the Visualize Value sales deck. This methodology is applied to the social content that you've probably seen if you're watching this video, and the website here, which is really a version of this document, just streamlined out into a very, let me change this, streamlined out into a, very succinct landing page that tells the story and allows people to get in touch with you. So super simple stuff. Let me crack over back to the keynote here. Then, okay, you can see how that methodology is central to all of the different materials you're going to create as a result of producing that. And really close this presentation by showing that this works. So I have worked with a bunch of people in a bunch of different industries with this process to deliver what I promised above. And in closing this presentation, I would explain how that has worked in all these different scenarios. So here's one example. A guy named Brad Lindsay runs a company called Supply Chain Solutions, and he has such a complex process and has struggled to articulate it for such a long time that it's been very difficult to position himself in his market the way he should be positioned, because there are big names that he's competing against in supply chain, and ultimately he provides a better service than they do, but it's been very difficult to tell that story in a way that compels his would-be clients to make a decision against their instinct to choose a household name. But now he has this documentation and this process and this methodology. It really raises his position in the market to be able to command not only the conversations with those high caliber clients, but to actually close those deals and train his salespeople to tell this story more compellingly to close more deals. Another great business, Magnitude. This is an example we showed earlier. Magnitude is the methodology of a digital agency called Glass Elephant. Actually, a great friend of mine through this process, Simon Phillips. We worked together for a couple of weeks to just pull out all of this incredibly nuanced, dense process information from his head and build it into this linear narrative that would help his potential clients understand just how profoundly effective the tactics and strategies that he's developed over years are on the metrics of their business. So this has been hugely effective for him as a business owner, and he was charging, time and materials, delivering brilliant results for people, but billing by the hour on net 60 billing cycles. Once he has this documentation, once he has this way of presenting his methodology in a way that convinces people that he is, truly knows what he's talking about, he is now able to sell workshops at a fixed cost on a waiting list. So there's so many people that want this methodology applied to their business. They actually have to apply to work with Simon now, and they're on a long waiting list to do so. Another great friend of mine through this process, Jim Fisher, he is an extremely talented marketer and has built a number of different software platforms to generate exclusive leads for high ticket businesses like real estate, insurance, medicine. And how he describes the result of this process is the prospects that he's talking to instantly realize what's missing in their journey to get where they need to be. So the reason they're having a conversation with Jim in the first place is because they want to generate a different result. In most cases, they want to meet more qualified leads. His process is able to deliver that, but explained verbally, it's very difficult for them to believe the results that he's actually selling them, because they are so incredibly powerful and unique that once you provide a visual formula for how you get to that place, how you're creating that value in a way that everybody in the room can follow along, he's able to quickly move them to signed paying clients just by telling them this story. Another quote from Jim: "I no longer have to think. I wonder if they're seeing it. I wonder if they get it. Are they feeling what I feel? Do they see the possibilities that I see?" Now he has this this methodology, which we named preemptive advantage. He has this branded asset and this IP that he can leverage in these situations to really communicate his value in a way that cannot be misinterpreted. Another great example, hugely talented duo running a digital agency and going through all of the experiences that they've had, all of the things that they believe, the philosophy of their team as a result of their experiences, and articulating that in a way that positions them where they deserve to be positioned, moved them from an agency that was just billing a day rate of $600 to being able to land government contracts at $200,000 a piece. So this is a really great example of that perceived value angle, where you elevate your messaging to the point that it puts you in a different tier of your market, the tier that you're supposed to be competing in. Another great example with a little different application is taking your ideas, taking your knowledge, taking your expertise, and putting it into building an asset that you're able to use to scale your business. So instead of being a financial consultant or an outsourced CFO, in the case of Adam Rundle here in the Perfect P&L, we built an asset that he can now use to scale his business by selling IP. So he has a very, very comprehensive course that explains the nuances of profitability and how you should be thinking about operating your business from a financial perspective. And he now has that asset that he can sell individually at scale with zero cost of replication. So just to recap the visualize value methodology, if you are delivering your pitch verbally, you may do a great job on Monday. Chances are, by Wednesday, you're fading a little bit. By Friday, it's no good at all. This is, a loose example of what happens. This could also be different salespeople giving different explanations. There's a lot of different reasons why a verbal pitch does not communicate the value as consistently as a visual pitch. So when you're delivering your methodology visually, it comes across the same every single day, every single time. Everybody knows what you're talking about, and everybody's on the same page at all times. So to recap, going through this process, regardless of what you do as a service business owner that has a very complex methodology and has every reason to price your services in a way that reflects their value, if you're able to articulate that value in a way where it cannot be misinterpreted, these are the benefits you stand to reap. Higher caliber of investment. So this same methodology applies if you're raising money for a product, the sale of a business, whatever it might be. Wider margins because you're able to develop process around this methodology. Stakeholder alignment because everybody is looking at the same story. We're not all interpreting a conversation in different ways. The ability to scale systematically, the ability to land larger deals because one, the perceived value of your service increases with the quality of the presentation, but two, it just puts you in a new bracket. The way your business is positioned after going through this exercise is exponentially higher than it was before. And then the ability to standardize process across the board. And that's it, 31 slides later. So the objective of this video was really to give you a perspective on how to articulate what a service does that isn't necessarily a physical product. And I'm going to drop a couple of assets in the email list that should get you started on this same journey. But hopefully this was useful because you understand the brand as it stands now, and this is how it scales into a service business on the back end. So if you have any questions, just shoot me an email. I would love to talk more about this. And if you have any questions about doing this for yourself, I would love to help you. Cheers.